We welcome you back to Sideline Stories with Cody Allison, the first sideline reporter on Titans Radio. I'm Bryan. We are excited to get Cody to share these stories with you, episode by episode. Nobody's really heard these publicly before, and so here we go. Cody, are you ready?
Ready to go?
All right. So I thought the second episode of Sideline Stories should be titled Before They Were Titans, because before they were Titans, they were the Tennessee Oilers. They moved from Houston in the summer of 1997.
I just never got used to that.
What, the Tennessee Oilers?
Tennessee Oilers.
There's not any oil in Tennessee.
Yeah, we heard that all the time. I'm like, just go with it. You can see what they're trying to do here.
They're actually, people would argue, but I think in West Tennessee there are a few oil wells, but
we'll go with that.
Not as much as you would think in Oklahoma, Texas, whatever.
Yeah.
But, so I thought we would talk about when you and I first got involved with this stuff, when the NFL moved to the Mid-South.
Mm-hmm.
So they moved in the summer of 97. They played at the Liberty Bowl in Memphis. Attendance wasn't great. That concluded after the 97 season.
Correct.
And I'll never forget being at that last game because it was against the Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
It rained like a monsoon in the second half of that thing, and all the ponchos they sold at the stadium were yellow, so it looked like it was a Steelers home crowd.
Wow.
Mr. Adams was not happy with that at all. They struck a deal to play at Dudley Field at Vanderbilt in 98.
Right.
And so here we go.
Right.
I've doing little things here and there in 97, but in 98, what was it like covering the Tennessee Oilers, playing their home games at Vanderbilt? Because that was the year you became the spotter.
Mm-hmm.
And you were working and spotting for the great Joe McConnell.
Right. Well, and I'll tell you, and there's so many Joe stories. This is so great. We were like his wayward grandchildren, and he was the elder statesman who'd been around the NFL, done that, been there, done that, got the T-shirt, all that. Anyway, we'll get to that in a second. I remember when I first got to Nashville, first they're like, okay, now you're going to go. Larry's like, go to the locker room. Like, I haven't studied who these players are. I'm just, and start my third year of law school. I'm far removed from this. I had no clue. So I go in the locker room, and my biggest fear, which came true, which is I'm not going to know who most of these people are because I'm not going to be interviewing, the couple that I knew. And so I go in, and I just find somebody. I start through this interview. They can quickly conclude that I'm not quite sure who they are. And we're doing this interview, and he was so great about it. He works here now at this station. He was so great about it, took me off the hook, and really because he was there to help promote, their team coming over from Houston, and was just a real leader in terms of, relationship with the media. That's Blaine Bishop.
That's who I thought you were going to say.
And he was great. Gave me this great interview, took me off the hook and everything. So anyway, that was great. But, yeah, Joe McConnell, I was his spotter the first year. So Mike, at that point, was the color analyst.
Yes.
Joe McConnell, play-by-play. There was no sideline. And, so I'm just up there spotting. And, again, Joe voiced the Chicago Bears, had made the famous Walter Payton rushing record call.
When he had 103 fever with the flu.
Right. Told us that.
Yeah, So he actually, and I think you'll remember this, he used to call Chicago White Sox games, baseball, with Harry Carey before Harry Carey was with the Cubs.
Right. I mean, Joe McConnell's a legend.
He was.
And that's why the Tennessee Oilers brought him over, because they wanted
a hired gun,
an established voice until they could bring Mike along.
Yep.
And that's why he was there for 2 years. So
he was the voice of the Indiana Pacers when they were in the ABA,
right?
And when they won a world championship, I think in '76,
right?
So he had and at the time he was the voice of the Purdue Boilermakers for football, and I guess basketball too.
Yeah. So Joe McConnell's an absolute legend in sports, and they're like, you're going to be a spotter.
Okay.
I mean, this is like, so I was like, well, you're going to be John Gotti's assistant or something. It's like,
It's consigliere.
It's like, hold on, I don't know if I want this. There's a lot that could go wrong.
You're an attorney. You were consigliere.
There you go. There you go. So anyway, I'm hanging around this NFL and college sports legend and just kind of being a spotter, helping him out during the games. And we actually developed this, great rapport together, and he was very kind to me. And again, this is how we repaid him. We were his, again, wayward grandchildren. We're all like in our late 20s.
That's right.
And we're just like, hey, this may be the last year we ever do this. Let's just live it up, Let's tear it up. So we would be on the road, and we were just thinking of just fun stuff to do. And, Joe was real old school, very serious broadcaster. So we would be in our hotel room and call him in his room. Again, this is before you could look everybody up super fast on the internet and all that. So he didn't know. Plus, anyway, I don't even think Joe ever had a flip phone. He was just way old school. He's bag phoning it at the most. So anyway, we would prank call Joe McConnell. So we would act like I would act like I was with the local radio station, say we were in Philly, and we would say, hey, do you mind if we call you in about 5 minutes? We'd do this whole, and he didn't know my voice that well in terms of radio voice kind of at that time. And can we call you in 5 minutes to do this interview on our big sports station here? He'd be like, oh, yeah, sure. I can't wait to talk about this game. Oh, so many great Philly games over the years. But we would get on there, and to prank call him, we would have this just total botched interview, and he thought he was live on the air trying to answer these questions. So we would start out legit, right, with something like, oh, tell us about the, defensive scheme for the Tennessee Oilers. Oh, okay, let me tell you this. The next question would be like, why do you think they chose the color blue for their uniforms?
Completely random.
And he would get so upset, as he should. But keep in mind, he thought he was live on the air. And then we would make up these then we'd come back with a legit question. Okay, kind of rein it in. Well, okay. And then come back with this, what are they serving on the sideline? Is that Gatorade, or do they just have water down there? And I don't know what this matters, and he would go off. In the interview, I don't even know why you care about this. He even said, we did this like 3 or 4 times. During one of them, he was like, I think this is an unprofessional interview. And again, he thought he was live. So we had a lot of fun with Joe, but he was great. The food thing with Joe was a little tough because, we would be in, some big cities. Say we're in Dallas, oh my gosh, we can get a great steak or something, And he'd be like, well, there's a Denny's off Interstate 3, He always had to go to Denny's, get the lettuce wedge. He was way old school. Nothing wrong with Denny's. But just at that time, we were like, maybe we could change it up. We're on the, in a different city. But he had his favorites, and we just kind of went where he wanted us to go.
He lived in Indianapolis. This would be like going to Indianapolis and go, hey, let's go to St. Elmo's Steakhouse.
Right.
No, there's a Denny's on I-65 or whatever.
Yeah, not knocking on Denny's, but it was the old school.
That was what he wanted.
Yeah, it was so great. And, again, it's like you're in Boston. It's like, oh, we're going to get some, shrimp, seafood, whatever. No, the Denny's over here is like he compared Denny's. He was like, no, this Denny's has a better salad bar than this. I'm like, that's so next level, We were like, okay, whatever. But just our relationship with Joe McConnell was so interesting because, again, he was so experienced and we were just coming along.
So I think about some moments in that season. And obviously there were some moments that were not so great at Vanderbilt. Ryan Leaf got one of his few wins in the National Football League when he was with the Chargers. But I think about that Sunday night, I guess it was, Sunday night football game at Raymond James Stadium. Mm-hmm. In Tampa, and Steve McNair turned the wheels on, and it was just outside the 2-minute warning.
Right.
And remember, he kept calling it the Ray J.
Well, yeah, the Ray J.
Not Raymond James Stadium, the Ray J.
But Joe McConnell could get away with that, right?
Someone had told him that's what it was nicknamed, I guess.
Yeah, and I remember that game because they wanted to do the sideline reporter gets on the pirate ship. There was no ear protection. I had no idea. I was like, oh, it's kind of in a stadium and stuff. I mean, that thing shot off, and I couldn't hear for like 5 minutes.
Like going to an AC/DC
concert. I was like, everybody else up there is wearing these I'm like,
Should I be wearing
Do
them?
you have a guest set, I could use?
But I remember that was definitely a highlight of that season because, man, it was a 74-yard run, man.
Yep.
A busted play, and he took off and made him pay for it.
No, but there were so many great calls. Joe McConnell getting into all that was all great, and but how interesting that the next year, here comes Mike, first year, and what a year that was.
And he's at this point, what, 30, 31 years old?
Yeah, so Mike's 3.5 years older than me. So he's like 32.
Wow. So the thing that I remember the most about that year is this is where things had turned a corner just to the start of the season, where people were going back to the thing of there's no oil in Tennessee.
Right.
They weren't happy. Now, it's wild to see how the Oilers gear and all that has become so desirable now and cyclical.
And it's great. The oil derrick's awesome.
Oh, it's one of the greatest throwback uniforms.
Iconic.
I mean, there's a short list of those.
Everybody was like,
but nobody wanted it back then.
Right. They're like, we want to be the Tennessee Copperheads, I remember, or something like that. They were coming up with all these snake names. They had
the Tennessee Tornadoes.
Yeah. They had designs drawn. They were trying to sell it to the team and all this. And
the Copperheads.
That's right.
Yeah, because I think I remember Mike talking about he was trying to get them to get a rights deal with Steve Earle for Copperhead Road as like the theme song to play during games, kind of like what the Steelers do with Renegade with Styx.
The Copperhead.
What else do you remember about that season? Anything stands out to you?
Yeah, just a lot. I mean, in terms of players, that's really where we started to see, Pro Bowler Frank Wycheck.
Yes.
That year.
Yes.
I mean, you remember it was Frank and Michael Roan, and Frank just went next level. He just went next level. And I just remember seeing him just evolve and get better and better and better. Just all the fan involvement. I mean, everybody in Nashville, really across the Mid-South, but Nashville in particular, was just so, gangbusters.
Well, it was the NFL.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I'm a native of here, and we didn't have a team.
No.
Mike was a native here. We were actually Cowboys fans growing up because that's what you were shown on TV as the game of the week. There wasn't NFL Sunday Ticket or all these streaming options. And so most of your old school Titans fans in Nashville and the Mid-South are one of those. They're Washington or Green Bay or Dallas or something of that nature. I couldn't believe it was coming here.
Right. And, and again, talk about Frank, but also Steve, we know, was coming into his own and just, really turning into the, future MVP.
Yeah.
At that point. But just the fans is what I remember. Like, every game was like the biggest thing going. And everybody, you go to the mall, people have on, the gear. Yeah. They're talking about the team. They can't get enough of the team. And again, this is before all the social media.
Yeah, imagine what it would be like with that.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
So people followed. Either you watched the game on TV or you listened on radio. So there are a lot of people listening. Yeah. And everybody, everywhere they'd see you, they want to talk Titans.
The thing about Frank, and you're right, that was when he really started to come into his own because he had been drafted by Washington. They tried to make him a running back. And Floyd Reese, the late, great general manager of the Titans, picked him up off the waiver wire. I think it's a $100 transaction back then. Look at how that paid dividends. Frank over 500 catches, over 5,000 receiving yards.
Number 22.
That's right. That's right. Number 22 as a Washington Redskin. But he was one of the first tight ends in what is now, it's expected now, because they're more like big wide receivers. One of the first guys over 5,000 receiving yards, over 500 receptions. I think he had 27 or 28 touchdowns. He was McNair's security blanket.
Yeah.
And like if somebody else was covered up, he could, get it down and get a new set of chains.
Absolutely. And I always refer to you as Titans Radio's Swiss Army knife. because you could just pretty much do anything on the conveyor belt of the broadcast, which is a huge compliment.
Well,
Frank was kind of like the Swiss Army knife,
he
that
was.
offense. He could just do anything.
He was. I mean,
Yeah.
he
And
always
really helped McNair come into his own because McNair had a lot of trust in him.
absolutely. And then, of course, the thing that Frankie always touted was his perfect passer rating on
Right.
bubble screens and
Yep.
obviously the miracle play.
Yeah, perfect passer rating. He
Oh,
always
gosh.
talked about it. But yeah, we get into that, and then here we go with a playoff game that's somewhat memorable, right?
I'd tell you, yeah, a little bit. Just a little bit. And we're going to get to that in future episodes for sure.
Okay.
You know what else I remember about the 98 season? And if you, all of y'all listening and watching, Crazy George, who was a Houston Oilers fan.
Right.
I think Mr. Adams brought him up here. He had a drum that he would bang and walk around Dudley Field. And I just remember seeing him in Oilers gear and banging Tennessee Oilers.
Yeah, Crazy George.
And he would
Good
just start
memory.
chants,
He was our only super fan.
Correct. That's correct.
He
And there was no T-Rack yet. There was no mascot.
Right.
He was this first super fan, pretty much.
Yeah.
That's right. That's exactly right. All right, so we're going to get to halftime here of Sideline Stories, and we will return to the second half. We will go back to a very interesting conversation about the uncertainty from a top NFL official about Tennessee being a permanent home for the NFL. That happened in 1998. This episode of Sideline Stories is brought to you by attorney Cody Allison Associates. Cody Allison and his team have been representing clients across the Mid-South for over 25 years. Their team knows how to take on the big insurance companies. If your ERISA employee benefits have been denied, don't go it alone. Get the help you deserve. Visit CodyAllison.com. All right, we're back with the second half of Sideline Stories with Cody Allison. What I teased there a moment ago, what do you remember about the day, and it was a home game at Dudley Field, the interview that then NFL Commissioner Paul Tagliabue had with the guy I call the godfather of Titans radio, Larry Stone?
He is.
He said he wasn't sure if the NFL would make it in Tennessee.
Right.
I was there in that booth, too. I was
Right.
like, wait a minute.
What's
happening?
You know what else I remember about that game? There
All
was a couple of fans on the opposite of the press box side that were holding up signs saying, "Where's Clymer?" Because the late great David Clymer,
Yes.
who was a columnist
For the
for the
Tennessean.
Tennessean.
Yep.
And wasn't afraid to write a controversial article. He had been writing about things like this, and these were some of the fans. And David, great guy. I mean, I got to know David really
And a
well.
fantastic journalist.
Absolutely
Yeah.
great all the way around. But they were kind of challenging him by saying, "Where's Clymer?" Like, the NFL's here. He apparently, at first, was taking the position, well, I'll believe it when I see it. So the "Where's Clymer" signs were out, which David got a kick out of. He was smiling. But yeah, Paul Tagliabue with Larry Stone, that interview, I remember listening. I'm like in the back of the booth. I'm like, this is breaking news.
Did he just say that?
He did. Yeah, he did. I was stunned. And Larry, the true pro, doesn't just stop and lose his mind.
No.
He's like, okay, let's go with this.
He has a follow-up question and another.
Yeah.
But the acting commissioner of the National Football League is uncertain that this is going to work in Tennessee, which tells you the struggle that it was for Mr. Adams to move that, because that stuff, prior to that, there hadn't been a whole lot of movement. I mean, Al Davis sued the league 2 or 3 times, the late owner of the Raiders, going from L.A. to Oakland, back to L.A. to, But that just tells you what a struggle that was and how secretive that was, because that was the thing that's wild, is to hear those stories about Mayor Bredesen and Mr. Adams. They didn't even have dinner anywhere in town. They were like going out to Dixon County, going way under the radar.
Top secret.
Yeah.
Well, you bring up a really great point, Rhett. Knowing what Paul Tagliabue said in that interview with Larry about not being sure that the team was going to actually make it here, really emphasizes all of the work that was done, both with the Tennessee officials and with Mr. Adams and his team in Houston to get that team here. Because if you're the commissioner, I mean, your job is to support the teams in your league, right? And that was not a vote of confidence. And for Mr. Adams to move the team here, and the Tennessee officials to say, hey, we can help you make this happen. And again, credit to Mayor Bredesen. That was just, it's even more phenomenal where this has gone today.
And now, over a quarter of a century later, I mean, they're generations of Titans fans now.
Right.
And the wild thing about all of that behind the scenes is Mr. Adams, he served on the board of directors for several companies, one of which was a plastics company in Franklin.
That's right.
Kusan, I think, was the name of it. It was a plastic toy maker. And, of course, plastics, like, what's that? Well, Mr. Adams had Adams Energies.
Right, he has lots of
So he was
business
oil
interests.
and, what's a byproduct of petroleum? Plastics, those things.
Right.
And so he had been to Nashville several times. And I guess that was one of the deciding factors in this is a place. And Nashville worked because just like Indianapolis worked with the Colts, the infrastructure, you have main artery highways coming from all neighboring states. It's like a hub.
Right. It's the center of the Mid-South.
And it's just far enough from the Atlanta Falcons, the Indianapolis Colts, the Cincinnati Bengals, and then you go west, and the first teams you get to are Kansas City and used to be Houston, and the Dallas Cowboys.
It's the perfect drop zone.
It absolutely was.
I wanted to ask you, if you don't mind, about that 98 season. What are and then that season, and then the first season as the Titans. What are some of your biggest memories?
So the that year at Vanderbilt, I just remember how frenzied the fans were, because you're right, it was the NFL. And, I mean, just think about people sitting in all those aluminum bleachers at Dudley Field.
Right.
Because, I mean, and the thing is, that's not a knock on Vanderbilt. If you went to Green Bay to Lambeau Field, which you did in that window of time, there were still aluminum benches like an old football stadium. But I remember, so I used to go out and host the field a punt contest for prizes.
Again, Swiss Army knife of Titans Radio. You've done it all, Rhett.
So they would bring out the jugs machine that these guys practice with, and it has those two wheels and a motor, and it shoots the football, and you can change the trajectory and the speed. And so they had contestants, and I don't even remember who the sponsor was and what was the prizes involved, but they would make them catch a certain punt, then they'd back it up and do another one. And I would always be talking with whoever was the national anthem singer, like Charlie Daniels was going to sing the anthem one day. And by the way, we're going to get to an episode later in this series of Larry. Larry Stone loved to interview the anthem singers for Titans games, and we've got some great stories about those.
Yes.
But
I got to do a few on the sideline, but then if somebody Larry really wanted, of course, he's the
came
boss.
to the booth. Sure.
Coming to the booth, which is great because Larry did great interviews.
But these punt catching contests, and then I would hand the mic back to somebody, and then I'd head upstairs, and because I was hosting local pre and post game across the street at Logan's Roadhouse on Elliston Place. And so I was taking notes through the game for that stuff. The one that I remember the most, though, was the 1998, the end of the 98 season. It was the day after Christmas. We'd had a huge ice storm. And the Minnesota Vikings were in town, and people were chipping half-inch, quarter-inch of ice and snow off of those bleacher seats to be able to sit down.
I remember that.
Because it was just such a mess. And the thing I remember the most about that, and that was an Oilers loss, Randy Moss was finishing up his rookie season.
He's pretty good.
Hall of Fame, pretty good. And I remember distinctly him he burned Darrell Lewis, one of the Oilers' defensive backs. One of those was in the corner of the end zone. It was a one-handed grab. He just reeled in. Like he went to the apex and climbed the ladder and boom. And I remember thinking, first of all, that sucks. But second of all, this guy's going to be a pretty doggone good player. But for the Titans part of it, just remember the excitement of the new stadium, seeing all the there was such a rush to get all that stuff done because it's so wild to see new Nissan Stadium. I mean, look at how that's gone in just 15 months of construction.
Amazing.
But what people forget is, there was a referendum, vote yes. I found my button the other day for vote yes. And
you can use that for multiple things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, you can use it for something today.
Absolutely.
But vote yes.
And vote
I remember that.
A real strong concept. But what people forget is of the monies that were brought up for all this stuff, the greatest part of it was land acquisition, which then you realize how inexpensive it was to build current Nissan Stadium. But the place was ours. It was everybody's new deal. And to see those uniforms, because going on the Titans Caravan, and I went on the one in 99 where the only Titans jersey we had to show people, because they weren't out in stores yet in retail, we had a number 15 Craig Hendrick jersey. And it was like somebody seeing the Ark of the Covenant or something. We would make those stops, and it was like, I get to see the Holy Grail.
Oh, my goodness.
Let me see the jersey. And people
Golden
just,
chalice.
It was wild.
And I remember also they were finishing that. Mike's office was in a trailer.
Where the current trailers are.
Right.
Just on that same side, just a little little east of that in this case. But yeah, they were in double wide trailers.
Yeah.
I
remember going into his office.
Sure.
In those
ticketing
trailers.
office was the same thing. But
my gosh. But to describe what you're talking about there, that it was that buzz around Nashville, it was the best way I know how to describe it. It was Christmas Eve every day, with regard to the Titans.
And the other thing I remember is Mike talking about Mr. Adams had put everyone on notice. It was playoffs or pink slip. They'd gone 8-8 for 3 years, which to me is still a miracle.
In that transition.
They played in 4 stadiums in 4 seasons. To go 8-8 in front of
Fisher.
Right. That's the stuff that nobody gives Jeff Fisher enough credit for. To go 8-8 in front of pretty much nobody at the Astrodome. 8-8 again when you were on the road for all 16 games.
Yeah.
At either the Liberty Bowl or the visiting.
Do.
Yeah. And then at Vanderbilt. But they had those cornerstone pieces. Eddie, Steve, all of those things. Frankie and Bruce Matthews. And it all came together. But the 99 draft, Javon Curse was the tipping point. They caught lightning in a bottle.
And then with Bullock.
Oh, God.
Year.
Oh. But to see them stack wins and go undefeated, 9-0 at home with the playoff win, that was amazing.
Yes.
I'm still looking for something like that to happen again.
Right. Well,
we were all young fellas in our late 20s. And, but no. And we're going to go through, as we go through these Sideline Stories podcasts, we're going to go through a lot of memories because we're going to get very soon to those very early days of the Titans and how everything went crazy in 1999, the 2000 year, which was really the year they should have won the Super Bowl, playoff appearances, AFC championship games, all of these things. And, of course, the stories that are woven in between here and there.
And I really like what you've done with all this, starting out, just getting into the historical aspect of, the Oilers becoming the Titans, the Joe McConnells. And
well, because there are probably younger people, hopefully, watching and listening to the pod. Like, who are the Oilers? What's that?
Right.
So
exactly.
Got to have a little history you got to know where you've been to know where you're going.
Right. This is fun.
Oh, gosh, this is so much fun. And we want you to join us for this ride. So wherever you get your podcast, I want you to like, rate, subscribe, and get ready for some great stories on Sideline Stories with this guy, Cody Allison. Of course, they live on TitansRadio.com, 1045thezone.com, and those platforms as well. But we're going to be giving a lot of great stories and information that nobody's really heard before because Cody has seen some amazing things. Titans Radio has, too, for that matter.
Right.
But anyway, hope you join us next time on Sideline Stories. For Cody Allison, I'm Rhett Bryan. Thank you for listening and watching Sideline Stories with Cody Allison, the very first Titans Radio sideline reporter.